Did a powerful American ultimatum, one intended to force peace abroad, actually end up exposing the biggest political cracks right here at home?
That really is the question we're digging into today. We're looking at President Trump's September 2025 Gaza peace proposal.
Yeah, and the sources we have lay out this really stark contrast.
Exactly. On one side, you've got this image of decisive American leadership trying to finally end this horrible, almost 2-year war.
And on the other,
Well, back home, Washington, D.C. is basically paralyzed by internal political fights, especially this constant threat of a federal government shutdown.
the recurring theme, isn't it? The sources really hammer this contrast. The president's out there taking bold action, getting global buy-in,
Right.
and yet D.C. is gridlocked. Okay, so let's kick off our 90-second news hook right there. President Trump drops this 20-point ultimatum on Hamas.
And what's really striking, as you said, is the immediate global reaction. We're talking France, Germany, Russia, Egypt, the UK. They all lined up behind it.
The sources really frame this as, a pure display of American strength forcing the issue.
Yeah, but while that's happening, Capitol Hill is stuck. Vice President J.D. Vance, according to the sources, points the finger directly at the Democrats.
Saying they're failing to do the right thing, essentially.
That's the quote, yeah. He argues they won't negotiate responsibly. And some conservative sources we looked at go further.
How so?
They suggest these shutdowns aren't just accidents. They see them as maybe a deliberate political tactic by the opposition to gain some kind of advantage.
Okay, so internal fighting while the world is watching, waiting for this terror group Hamas to potentially demilitarize.
Which is a huge ask. To really get the weight of this, we need to unpack the terms of the deal itself.
All right, let's get into it. This plan, announced with Prime Minister Netanyahu, your material presents it as, well, firm, realistic.
A necessary contrast, they say, to previous, maybe softer attempts that didn't work.
Okay, so what are the key conditions? Where does it start?
It starts with security right away, an immediate ceasefire. But, and this is crucial, it hinges on releasing all hostages.
All of them. Alive
or deceased, within 72 hours of Israel formally accepting the deal. That's the first urgent step.
72 hours. Wow. That's an incredibly tight deadline. What about the longer-term condition, the core demand?
That's the demilitarization mandate. The sources literally call it the deal breaker. Meaning Gaza has to become a, quote, de-radicalized terror-free zone. Hamas must completely decommission all its military stuff. Everything. Terror infrastructure, offensive weapons, and importantly, that massive network of tunnels they use.
So basically, Hamas has to agree to dismantle itself as a military force.
Pretty much. Institutional suicide, as you put it earlier, that's what's on the table.
And if that happens, assuming they agree, who governs Gaza then? How do you maintain stability?
Well, the plan calls for a totally new governance setup, a transitional administration.
Run by who?
Led by a technocratic Palestinian committee. Think engineers, administrators, people focused on rebuilding, not ideology. Apolitical.
Okay, but who watches the watchers? Is there oversight?
Yes, and this is key. That committee would be supervised by an international body, the Board of Peace.
The Board of Peace and the chair.
President Trump himself, the proposal states he would chair it.
That's quite a commitment.
Yeah.
Direct American leadership baked into the oversight.
That's how the sources frame it. It's the guarantee, ensuring the process stays on track. And maybe that's why it got such broad international buy-in.
Including that support from Pope Leo XIV, calling it realistic and very interesting.
Right, and also from Egypt, Turkey, Pakistan, major Muslim nations signing on. It seemed to cut across the usual divides.
But the plan also came with teeth, right? A warning.
Oh, absolutely. A clear deadline was set. Trump warned that if Hamas rejected it, Israel would resume military action with, quote, full U.S. backing. No ambiguity there.
Okay, so the plan is laid out. It's got international support. It's got a threat attached.
Yeah.
But now, the reality check.
Exactly. This is where, as you said, it gets really interesting. Because the main opposition isn't just some minor quibble. It's fundamental.
And it comes from?
Hamas, predictably. A senior official signaled they're likely to reject it.
Why? What's the specific sticking point for them?
It's the core demand. They stated they will neither disarm nor accept the deployment of an international stabilization force.
So they're choosing to keep their weapons over the potential for peace and aid.
That's how the sources present it, yes. Choosing conflict over a different future for Gazans.
Meanwhile, you've got Prime Minister Netanyahu. He's got his own demands, his own total victory stance.
Right. He's been very clear. Regardless of this plan, his position is that All of Gaza eventually comes under Israeli security control. That's non-negotiable for him.
But he did praise one part of Trump's earlier thinking, didn't he? Something about relocation.
Yeah, that was striking. He called the idea of relocation opportunities for Gazans, quote, so correct and so revolutionary.
Revolutionary. That's strong language. He sees that as a key condition for ending the war.
Apparently so. And it's not just pulled out of thin air. One source cited a survey suggesting many Gazans themselves actually favor relocating. The idea being it's a voluntary, humane option for people desperate to get out.
Okay, so you have these massive geopolitical stakes, the future of Gaza, regional stability, but it's also playing out intensely back here in the U.S., right? Especially in terms of public opinion.
Massively. And this connects to that idea of a fractured reality we mentioned. Look at the numbers.
The Gallup poll from July.
Exactly. It showed only 9% of young Americans, 18 to 34, support Israel's military actions. Just 9%.
That's incredibly low. It points to a huge disconnect or maybe a very effective information campaign on the other side.
Well, it certainly points to a battleground for public opinion. And the sources reveal some really sophisticated efforts to shape that narrative.
You're talking about the Clock Tower X contract.
Yes. Israel hired this firm, run by Brad Parscale, former Trump campaign manager, a $6 million contract.
$6 million. What's the goal? Just general PR.
It's more specific. Combating anti-Semitism, yes, but also crafting pro-Israel messages specifically tailored for Gen Z.
Meaning TikTok, Instagram, where young people get their information.
Exactly. But here's the really forward-looking part. The contract includes efforts to influence how AI models like GPT frame these topics.
Wow. So they're trying to shape the information ecosystem at its very core, even the AI tools people use.
It shows how high the stakes are in this information war. It's not just about news headlines anymore. It's about the underlying informational reality.
Which brings us right back to that idea of the shared foundational reality eroding. If the information itself is a battleground,
then having a unified public understanding becomes almost impossible. And this fracture isn't just between political parties, it's happening within movements, too.
Right. Let's pivot to that. The sources say this whole situation has exposed a deep divide inside the conservative base, specifically the MAGA movement.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It pits that traditional, almost unconditional support for Israel against the newer, more assertive America First wing.
And Netanyahu himself weighed in on this, trying to define who is and isn't MAGA.
He did. He basically said that any American conservatives criticizing his government, they're not MAGA.
This argument being
that true MAGA means being pro-Israel because Israel is America's key ally against Iran. He tried to make it a litmus test.
But that didn't sit well with the America First purists?
Not at all. They fired back immediately. Their view is America First means prioritizing American interests, full stop. Less foreign intervention, fewer endless wars.
And we saw this play out publicly.
Very publicly. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, she was the first Republican in Congress to call the Gaza war a genocide, framing it explicitly as an America First concern.
Not just her. Right. Other prominent voices, too.
Right. Figures like Tucker Carlson also came out with harsh criticisms of Israel's actions. It marks a really clear break from that older neoconservative wing, people like Senator Ted Cruz, perhaps.
So the core conflict here is
Right.
what? What's the fundamental disagreement?
It's really about the soul of the movement. Is MAGA primarily about America First only, meaning non-interventionism and prioritizing domestic issues above all else?
Well,
Or must it still adhere to that older neoconservative ideal of strong alliances and unquestioning support for allies like Israel, even if it means deep foreign involvement? It's a battle over definition.
so if we tie these threads together, the struggle for peace in Gaza and this internal American political struggle.
You see a parallel, don't you? The peace plan hinges on one side, Hamas being willing to disarm, to give up power for peace. They seem unwilling.
And at home?
At home, stable governance is threatened by polarization, by shutdown threats, and as we discussed, by this intense information war designed to break down any kind of shared understanding of reality.
The sources really highlight that contrast. Decisive American leadership can shape global events like the Trump plan aimed to do.
But that potential strength gets undermined by the internal dysfunction, the political infighting, the ideological wars tearing things apart from within.
Which leaves us, and you the listener, with a pretty stark thought to consider based on these sources.
Yeah. The material suggests that when that shared foundational reality cracks under the pressure of information warfare and division, people feel like they only have two choices left.
Resignation. Just checking out.
or focusing purely on personal survival, maybe even looking for an exit strategy.
So the final question really becomes, does this massive effort we're seeing to manipulate opinion, from huge contracts to influencing AI, mean that maybe genuine democratic consensus is already out of reach? Or is this internal division, this fight over what America first truly means, actually a necessary battle for the future direction of the country?